Boo. Happy bow tie Friday, hanging out with BuidlGuidl builders. Who wants to go first? I feel like I'm gonna nominate GA to go first if you want to show off your thing, if that's cool, and then we'll go from there. If not,
Okay, yeah.
if not, Daniel, you got it. If you got it, let's go for it. We're basically BuidlGuidl builders, and we're showing off what we're building with scaffold-eth. Kind of every Friday or so, we just kind of pop on and show what we're building and throw it on YouTube. So yeah, if you want to share your screen and take it away, go for it. Oh, he's got it. He's on it. Here we go. We got it.
Yeah, so I'm starting a project / startup called Koywe. Koywe is a tree in Chilean and Argentinian Patagonia. Actually, the photo you see on my background on Zoom, that's a forest of Koywes. And this all started because we wanted to offer people a path to fight climate change. And what better tool to use than Web3? So we built this using scaffold-eth. And it's a Polygon now, you can go there right away. And the idea is that you can manage your investments. So you can see here all my millions of dollars that I have invested on CO2 tokens. No, just some few dollars. That was a bad joke. I have to improve my joke game. So we have curated some tokens that are basically carbon credits. And if you buy them, you can see them right here. It's a basic table that queries a Polygon RPC and your address, and it shows you how much tokens you have and how much money. It adds everything up here to see like an eagle view of what you're doing and how many tons you are offsetting with those investments. The idea is to help people invest more money to fight climate change, but additionally giving them a context of what they are doing. I took the pledge here, but I'm gonna switch to a wallet that doesn't have the pledge, if my computer allows me. So if you don't, one of the things that I wanted to add was the like a commitment, because it's okay if you want to invest and just use it for like selfish reasons, like you want to see your tokens going to the moon. But this is also a tool for people to start their journeys to fight climate change. And there's a pledge, a smart contract that registers the like your pledge. There's a text that we have to polish and change, but basically you're committing yourself to defending the world. And then you pledge a rate of tons per year. You pledge it on chain, and it's gonna live there forever, at least on Polygon or Goerli, where I have the smart contracts. And once you do that, I don't have Matic. Oh no, yeah, I do. Once you do that, you can start receiving tokens that are gonna represent the tons of CO2 that you get per year. So that's a token that it doesn't have, it's only ERC compatible in the get balance function, but you can transfer them, you can ask for allowance, you can do anything, just receive them. And it's a dynamic balance function. So every second that goes by, you get more tokens. Well, I can show you already with the wallet. And the idea is that that token is going to represent. See, I have it already. It represents the tokens of CO2, the tons of CO2 that you're emitting into the atmosphere. So since I pledged, I have emitted 0.8 tons of CO2. And it also has some nice features here, like you can see the emissions in your transactions using Carbon FYI. And the most interesting things are that there are many projects that are doing NFTs and tokens, and the idea is that from here you can do you can buy or mint new NFTs from these projects, or you can see the collection of NFTs you have already. So I have trigger trees, which plant trees in Patagonia, and I have a Koywe tree, which was my SVG submission to the guild. And what,
like
what we did is,
the branches are a little bit thicker or wider, right? Like what are the dynamic properties of the SVG?
The dynamic properties are the color, like the loogies, and the leafiness of the tree. So
the
it's
leafiness.
yeah, wider or thinner according to predictable random factor. And also we added an outcome for the money of the tree. So you pay with using BCT, which is base carbon tokens from Toucan protocol. You have to pay with those tokens, and then there's an outcome. With the money, we're gonna plant trees in Patagonia, and or different locations that are determined by the smart contract. So if you buy one, you could get Patagonia in Chile, Patagonia in Argentina, or you could get an outcome of retiring those BCTs using the Toucan tools. And that's basically it. And ideally, I'm gonna put a swapper here for Sushi Swap, where the main tokens are. But you can see here the same table that was before, and I used the vendor challenge to sell some BCTs. So you can buy them for a little more expensive than market, but it's just to try a concept. And for people that are too lazy to go to Sushi Swap, you can buy some BCTs here. And I added a ramp as well. Like I simplified the ramp that comes with scaffold-eth to use ramp, and to only accept Polygon tokens. And that's it.
That's awesome. It's such a good use of scaffold-eth.
You're gonna see it here. Yeah.
You took a lot of, even the success message looks like the success message from like challenge 1 when you get the thing deployed or something like that. You've taken a lot of components from scaffold-eth and like put them in. It's almost a bit overwhelming how much stuff is on Koywe.eco. Like when I land there, I'm like not exactly sure what my main call to action is and what is a side quest as I go through it. Because you've put so much into it. Like you said, there's a ramp there, there's a swap there, there's the BCT token from Toucan, there's the early pledge that you put together. There's just a lot going on. But yeah, this is awesome. It's a perfect build for scaffold-eth, where you can take something off the shelf and get like 80% of the way there first, and then focus on what you want to build and how you want your app to work. Yeah,
this is basically my personal playground for the project. We're working on a we're working on something better UX, better design, and but always built on top of scaffold. So we're working with a group of developers that are helping us make it prettier and more usable.
This is usually where it starts, right? It's like, I'm going to have 4 different tabs and I'm just going to tinker with getting the functionality, and it's going to look ugly and be a prototype, but like the form fields are there. And when you click the button, it does the thing. And then you hand it off to someone else and say, make this pretty and make this flow well. Yep, totally. Yep. Scaffold-eth is good at getting you to that like ugly prototype phase really quickly. Awesome.
So
GA.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Good presentation. Keep building, keep doing awesome stuff. All right, who's next? Daniel, do you want to go next with the dynamic SVG NFT, the badge system that you've created?
Yeah, I guess I can go next.
All right.
Let me share my screen.
In terms of different BuidlGuidl quests, this is the SVG NFT quest.
All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, all right. So I think GA did a great like explanation of like dynamic NFTs in general. So this is sort of my me doing the dynamic NFT SVG quest. The inspiration for it, for those of you that probably recognize this is World of Warcraft. When you join a guild, you basically purchase this item, and then depending on your guild, it binds to you and then shows a pattern like the guild's badge. Typically, it also shows you like your reputation with the guild. So given that we're called the BuidlGuidl, part of my idea was to do something very similar to that. Let me see if I can move this bar out of the way. Okay, so this is the NFT itself. It's a BuidlGuidl tab art. It's basically 100%, none of this is on IPFS. It's all rendered as an SVG with on-chain. So what it is if you actually look at the code, which you can check on Etherscan, but it's easier to see like that, is it's a very standard ERC 721. In the loot style, like when you mint it, we basically set a URI, except unlike loot where the URI is fixed via like the token ID, in this case, URI actually is, I can open it up so you can see it. It's basically XML in a like HTML style, so that I'm actually loading at the point of render different functions. So how that ends up working is, take, for example, something like this. Every time you render this, or every time OpenSea renders this, it actually does on-chain like lookup to a different contract. So for example, this is bound to my address, is actually checking out my ENS. So if I change my ENS to something else, this will change. This is the actual state of my BuidlGuidl like builder stream, and this is the actual like wallet balance I have in my wallet. So like that, okay, OpenSea slightly uncaches it, but like if you actually render the thing after a while, it updates. So there's the same thing. A bunch of people have already minted theirs. So you'll see that basically for each person that mints it, it's unique to their ENS. It's bound to them. You can see the state of their different streams, and then the state of their wallets. So the idea of this is to act very similarly to like the World of Warcraft guild, in a sense that you have a tabard or like badge or whatever you want to call it that follows you around. The idea is that the stream sort of represents like your reputation within the guild, and then it tracks, and it's tied to your wallet. So it's a bit unique, and I got the idea from like the Lex DAO, I think, had a similar idea of soul-bound NFTs. So if you actually look at any of these, the token ID is actually your address in like UINT form. So that and that's how I bind the address. So even if you transfer this to someone else, it will always reflect and follow the wallet and the stream that it was bound to at the point of minting. So in a sense, you're trying to replicate the like game idea of the bound on pickup, or like what Vitalik was talking about with soul bound, so that like you want NFTs that have value because of the person that minted it and like the reputation and the event that generated them. And so NFTs in this sense can't really be traded, because like the rep and everything that goes into it has to be earned. It cannot be like bought in a sense. So yeah, that's the general idea. So I've thrown up a very simple site, BuidlGuidl.search.sh. If you're in the BuidlGuidl, so basically if you're part of this, the builders, you'll be able to mint an NFT. You just need to go here and then basically enter your stream address. So this stream address is actually the address. For example, let's take Daniel Sheldon here. If I want to see like his stream address, like each of us as builders, we have a stream that has ETH streaming to us. The address that you provide is basically the address of this contract. So this stream has 0.5 ETH in it. If you mint this, you can see, I believe Daniel has already minted his. Yeah, so you can see the stream balance is 0.5, which is the balance of his actual stream. So if he makes a like withdrawal, then it will update. His NFT will update to show. And if your wallet balance changes, it will update. So the idea is just a cool, interesting NFT that follows you around. How it's done, you can look through in the code, but that takes a while. I can post the link if anyone's interested. But basically you have typical ERC20, ERC721, and then we reference two external contracts. One of them is the simple stream, which is what all of us have. The other one of them is basically ENS reverse records, which is how I resolve ENS. It's easier to see. I was putting together like this dashboard. Let me see if I can make it bigger.
Look at that. We even have an ETH build. Holy moly.
Yeah, so effectively, when you mint, you're setting the address of you're minting with your wallet, which is tied to your ENS, and you basically create this contract is the NFT contract itself. So all you're doing, similar to loot, is that the token URI does all the heavy lifting. Every time like someone wants to render it, you're basically generating this giant SVG string. What actually goes into the SVG string is it's looking up a bunch of things. So look up ENS name, does some complex things where it basically goes and finds like the ENS reverse records and like jumps through all their contracts to resolve. Like they'll say that for this wallet address, this for example is my wallet address, this returns me. If I swap it to someone else's wallet address, for example, let's use Daniel Sheldon's address. Sorry, I already have it open. And then If I paste it in here, and then it resolved, it basically updates to his wallet address. So that's how I basically render the ENS on the badge itself. So like that's how this gets rendered. Then similarly for streams, because when at the point of minting, you provide your stream address, it actually goes and stores that address, and then it looks up that contract, such that again, on the render function, it actually makes like a read to the stream call to check like the balance. The balance is 0.5 here. Yeah, so that's the general idea. I think like the loot concept of a SVG rendering makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of possibilities when you realize that these render functions can actually read stuff on chain. Yeah, so if you're in the BuidlGuidl or are interested, like basically anyone here, or if you get added here, you can go to, where is this? BuidlGuidl.search.sh, and you'll be able to mint it. So if you do, for example, if I connect my actual proper MetaMask and then refresh this, you'll see, yeah, basically it'll show you your NFT updated in real time to your wallet balance, 0.49, which is actually my wallet balance, and stream. Yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. The interesting mechanic there is using, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening here, but using the address as the token ID. So there can only ever be one NFT for my stream address, and I can mint it now and I can send it to someone else. But if I tried to remint, it would say that that token already exists. So it's like your way of saying there can only be one token for that address. And if I send it off to someone else, then it's like, well, it's gone forever. Like, is that true? Is that the kind of the dynamic of how it might work?
So yeah, I think that's the original idea behind like the sold on NFTs, in the sense that like it can only be minted by the person whose like ENS and values match up. I do a similar check on the mint function where we check that effectively the sender is also the stream withdrawal address, so that basically you would need to be part of the BuidlGuidl, or if you wanted to deploy your own like contract where you are the withdrawer. So for example, here, you can actually look at this contract itself and ensure that like you are indeed the like recipient to address. So that sort of acts as a like, I guess it enforces in the sense that you are the unique minter and it's bound to your wallet. However, there's also another way you can take it, which is because it's a live updating thing, you could potentially, if you wanted to, in a more generalized sense, do it as a bearer wallet. So then like, depending who you send it to, it can show you different things based on the contents of their wallet, which is quite interesting. And that might be something I'll probably explore in future.
Heck yeah. Yeah, there's so much fun, like so many fun things you can do with dynamic SVGs and how they can display like what is actually there, and thinking about different SVGs rendering each other and the composability layer. Love the ethbuild dashboard there too. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I think something that wasn't obvious to me when I first started this is I didn't realize that like the render function could reach basically into other contracts, and that potentially opens up a whole new area where you could basically have like membership systems or like leveling points, things like that. And you can even see, like, to take it very far, where your NFT actually just references one like helper contract you have on chain that does everything for you and gives you like formatted data. Yeah,
I've seen SVG NFT contracts do like delegated renderers where it goes to another contract to call the rendering, and therefore they can like update that delegated renderer to be something else, like plug in a new renderer and then all the SVGs
like the Loogie
change.
like the Loogie tank example.
The Loogie tank is another like SVGs inside of SVGs and needing the render function to be public, but not have the SVG wrapper around it. That was a fun discovery. I'm doing like a game workshop later today, and I'll be talking about that. That's definitely like a piece of kind of like interesting game stuff going on in Web3. Word. Good build, Daniel. You should throw a link to the repo in the chat, and I'll throw that in the recording too. So for people that want to like go fork that and play around with it.
That's a good idea.
Word. And maybe GA too, if you want to. I don't know if you're open source yet. Is Koywe open source? I don't know if I said it right either. If it is though,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
If it's open source, throw me a link and I'll throw it in the video notes. All right, man. I think it's Bliss. Man with some Retro PGF Now we got to make sure he doesn't share his whole screen. And if it's super wide, then everything shrinks down.
Yeah, don't
Only
worry.
one
I'm on
window
my
at a
laptop.
time, Bliss.
Okay, but I'm going to share my desktop, so
Got
hopefully
it.
that's better. Okay.
Yep, looks great.
All right. So Austin has been, we've kind of been talking about this Retro PGF stuff for a while, which is, you know, an NFT that lets people, like after mint has completed, people can come in and trade their NFTs when a whale puts money back into the NFT contract itself, and then, you know, take a part of whatever amounts that's there. And that essentially reduces the supply of the NFT and makes it more valuable because, you know, nobody knows when another whale is going to try to, you know, put something in there. So the gaming of it and the experience of it is nice. So I have the Rinkeby version that's deployed, but I'm not going to be working with this at the moment because I'm trying to, you know, run through the whole thing and actually give the entire experience. So if you want to, you know, check it out, you can go to Retro PGF, that's surge.sh, and try it out on Rinkeby. But I'm going to be working off of my local host now to get it done. So what we're trying to accomplish here is, say for example, I have, you know, 3 images or 3 NFTs I want to mint as a Retro PGF product NFT, and you know, I can upload those. This is actually really on IPFS, and then increase the inflation to maybe 80%, and you know, it shows me what the price is going to be at whatever point that I set it at. I set it to 0.1 ETH as the starting price, and then, you know, it applies an 80% inflation rate to the price every single time someone mints until the end of until the total supply has been minted. So for this case, I will try BuidlGuidl NFT and just PG NFT, and it tells me the expected sellout value for all NFTs here. And, you know, kind of went the extra mile of when you click here, you can add an attribute to it, you can add a description to it. So I would say, you know, animal, and set that to true and say okay, and that adds it as an attribute to it. And then I can go ahead and deploy this. Okay, so now it's 0 because it's localhost. Okay, so that's been deployed, and when I go back to the home page, I'll be able to see that NFT deployed here. Now what I need to do is, it tells me how many has been minted so far, the name and symbol of the NFT, the address in case I want to YOLO some ETH into it, and I can mint over and over again. Let me see if I can log out and mint with this address. Let me send some ETH into it. Say to ETH send. That's updated. Okay, so I can mint, and that shows up here how many have been how many I've minted in my collection, and then the price actually inflates. And I mint the second one, and that shows up here along with the name. I mint the third one, and minting has been completed. So now that minting has been completed, someone can, like a whale can come in sometime in the future and say, I want to support this project with like, let's say 10 ETH, and then they send it in. And for each, yeah, I should have maybe increased that a little better. So it tells me the total floor price based off of how many NFTs are currently available that are not burnt yet, and then takes the value that's in the contract itself and divides it by the number of total supply. So I would approve this one for burn and trade for floor price, and that's burnt. I have only 2 NFTs left. I think I should have better added something to the UI to make it more intuitive, to show how many are in the total supply as opposed to how many has been minted. The minted value kind of stays the same, but how many that are actually available that are in circulation at the moment are only 2. The other one has been burnt, and I can approve this one for burn and trade for floor ETH. And as you can see, my value here increases based off of that. So once I trade in, my value, my balance here increases, and I get, you know, 3.333 ETH added to my account. So that's the long and short of it all. I don't know if there's much else I can say to it, but I just kind of ran through that so fast.
No, that's good. That's great stuff. So let's say we wanted to make another one. I think this is like a Retro PGF NFT as a service, right? Do we redeploy the contract, or is there a single contract for this site, or is this site set up so you're like deploying new ones? It seemed like it was almost like a service where you were deploying new ones.
Yeah. So this, to be able to deploy, basically to keep track of this and be able to have it on the UI, I have to have like a factory contract that then deploys that contract for you and attaches the ownership to your address. That's to the deployer address. So you can always transfer the ownership to a multi-sig or transfer it to someone else if you're no longer the person taking care of that community. So there's so many ways the experience can go. And for the NFT, just wanted to tag on the NFT here. This is for someone who doesn't have any experience with how to work with IPFS and uploading data and metadata and image data and all that stuff. So you can come in here and do all that stuff on the UI instead.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's more like a Retro PGF creation dashboard, and this is like almost like the management side of things. And if you did launch one of these, there's perhaps a second fork that you might be interested in, and it's more like just like a website with a mint button on it, right? Like a super simple scaffold-eth. It's like connect your wallet, hit mint, and when you mint, you see your inventory. And there may be like two builds that kind of go hand in hand here, where you use I'm going to use Danny Ryan as an example. Danny Ryan like minted an NFT recently, and he's obviously like a gigabrain, like orchestrating the beacon chain, and he's a very smart person, but he didn't have time to go mess around with how do I mess around with IPFS and token data. Like, I have an NFT, I want to make an NFT, let's put it on chain quickly. He's going to use a service like this, right? He's not going to go edit a custom contract, even a gigabrain. He's just going to use a service because it's easier and it makes more sense. So he drags and drops a few things. He sets the parameters, the curve, he hits deploy, but then probably as a secondary thing, we need to have like a website that he can, I don't know if even this thing could do it somehow, but like ship me a static website somewhere, or give me an endpoint where I can share that is just like a landing page where I can connect and mint. I don't know if you've had thoughts on that, or if that's like a second build, or how you see that working. It's
actually kind of like, this
okay, it's
this
there.
UI,
it's like token
but
slash token.
More like exactly. So this one is kind of attached to it. So the address for the NFT is here, and then whenever you plug it in here, as long as the functions match up or it's created or deployed from this factory contract, you can always go in here and mint without having any issues, and it pulls in all the data for you. So even if you went to the contract side of things and did a deployment here, it's always going to show up. Even if it doesn't show up here, if that's the case, you can go to /token and paste in the address, and it will be able to show all this.
I was thinking maybe even you could take that token route, and you could make it so it like hides everything else and changes the header or something. If you come in on the /mint route with an address, it like cleans a lot of the scaffold-eth stuff up and gives you just simply the mint page, and you could share that with folks to come in and mint or something like that.
Yeah, that's possible.
And just like kind of go back to a 50,000 foot view on this Retro PGF stuff. It's sort of like there's retro funding coming in, and that means like it's a lot easier to say who has done well, and we're just going to retroactively YOLO some ETH to the folks that have done well. And what that does is it creates an ecosystem of, if we do well, we'll probably get some ETH YOLO'd to us eventually, and a lot of like more altruistic thinking and building. And Carl from Optimism is kind of like really spearheading this, and he has this thought of like the amount of work you're putting in and the amount of value you're extracting needs to be basically equal. If you're putting in lots of work and not extracting value, like they want to YOLO money to you to kind of even that out. And so so what we're trying to set up is an easy way for anyone, even Danny Ryan, can land here, quickly deploy an NFT and raise a small amount of money. So you are still doing like a raise, you're still raising some amount of money, no matter if you call it an NFT or not, like it quacks like a duck. But basically you deploy an NFT and you give some to your early kind of contributors, and you allow other folks to kind of buy a couple also, and you raise a small amount of money, and that helps you kind of get to the next milestone. But then kind of retroactively, if what you built is a public good and works out well, and someone like Optimism or Vitalik decides to YOLO ETH, they can just, like you did here, just YOLO 10 ETH to the contract, and it artificially raises the price floor. So there's sort of like, there's three actors here. There's sort of like the early team members, and then there's the early supporters, and then there's the retroactive supporters. And the team and the early supporters should get some kind of value out of being in the right place at the right time, and kind of nurturing the project at an early stage to get it to become a public good, and have someone like YOLO, like Carl or Vitalik, YOLO some ETH to it. So that's Retroactive PGF. We're hitting it from a lot of different angles. A lot of groups, I think that, like including Optimism, they want this soon, but they're on their own quests right now, figuring out other stuff and governance and other things. But once those things are in place, one of these starter kits is going to be like coming off the shelf like crazy. Hopefully we'll just try to meme it into existence that if you're building a public good, you can come here, deploy a token in 20 minutes, and then hopefully raise retroactive public goods funding if you are a public good. So great build, Bliss. Nice work. A fine show off for Bowtie Friday. I think I'll steal the screen unless anybody, if you have something else to show off, drop it into the chat. I'm going to steal the screen real quick and just show off BuidlGuidl V3. So BuidlGuidl V3 is launched for us quietly. We still haven't launched it, as an article, like as a formal launch, but the next version of BuidlGuidl is out. There's kind of like this nice clean landing spot that kind of sends people to scaffold-eth or over to Speedrun Ethereum. Speedrun Ethereum is kind of like our onboarding now. You've got the early challenges, but then that channels folks into the multi-sig, the DEX, and the SVG NFT. Sounds like we should probably have DEX first here. I think we learned that on the call even today. DEX should be challenge 3, and then SVG NFT and multi-sig are kind of maybe it's even DEX and then SVG NFT and then multi-sig, just because all of the call data stuff and the tokens and the function signatures are pretty complicated and it takes some time to get through. But there are cohorts of other people learning and us in these chats with you. So as new people come in and they learn this stuff, they get dropped into a cohort where they have hopefully a bunch of other friendly developers helping them onboard into Web3. Then it's kind of like next steps. What do you do to kind of like go beyond the challenges and build something with scaffold-eth and contribute? And that's where the bazaar comes in. And like, if you haven't yet, make sure that you go to bazaar.buildguild.com. And this is going to be a place for us to shill our wares. It's going to be kind of like the little social network of BuidlGuidl V3. Kind of what BuidlGuidl V3 is hopefully a kind of a little social network between all of us builders, a way to kind of scale up the coordination where it's not just like me YOLOing into chat anymore, we should build this, and more like other folks joining and kind of, providing feedback, and let's get a round table going and we can kind of vote on what interesting projects are coming up. But if you haven't yet, make sure you get in and connect your wallet. Let's see, let's do it. Let's get going here. Connect your wallet and oh man, not right now. Connect your wallet and you'll see your profile. I think I have here, this is DNew's profile. So here's a really good Bazaar BuidlGuidl Bazaar profile where it's like, here's all of it's his token vendor, probably from the challenge, but he took it the extra distance and really spent some time making it look nice. The token, the staking contract. So these are like the early challenges. He's just kind of productized them and made them more presentable. Contract factory, the DEX, a factory starter kit, just learning how to make a contract factory. I think that's his early NFT. He doesn't have his multi-sigs on here, but the multi-sig is kind of like another one that he's built. But this is hopefully what your BuidlGuidl Bazaar profile should look like. You should have all your builds up there so other people can find them and fork them, and also set up your socials and your status. Like update your status once a week or more. Let us know. It's like a free update. There's no on-chain thing happening there. It's just a database and a signed message. So if you can, and then we can see what all the builders are up to, and we can see kind of your current status. So go to BuidlGuidl V3. Your streams are at the bottom. kind of, we have everybody broken up into different classes based on kind of their skill set and how much ETH is streaming to them. I YOLO'd 21 of my own ETH to kick it off, and then hopefully we'll find some more funders. I think that the EF will help out, but also I'm kind of like putting this little hint that retroactively, like maybe we've been doing a lot of good stuff here. Maybe there might be some retroactive funding for the Build Guild, and I'll keep poking that beehive a little bit, hoping to get something to happen. But yeah, lots of new builders, big full streams of ETH. Actually, these are the smaller streams, but yeah, it's more like UBI for developers. Keep building, keep withdrawing. You're doing great work. Designers and knights, these guys are kind of the bigger damage dealers that are, you know, almost full-time, and then some clerics to provide support. Warlocks are our artists, and then we'll have monks. I need to switch out the image, but we have monks that are kind of support, making sure everybody is taken care of, making sure they have the links, making sure the repo looks good, merging PRs, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's BuidlGuidl v3. Make sure you set your profile on the bazaar and shill your wares and show off what you're building. Along with, you know, here on this call, we can also do some shilling, but this is a place where we can do it kind of asynchronously, and hopefully people can find your builds and fork them. Awesome. Happy BTF, you guys. Anybody, any closing thoughts or anything we need to cover? Any questions? Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. All right, hearts, hearts, hearts. Happy Bowtie Friday. Thanks for checking it out. See you guys next Friday. Happy Bowtie Friday.